Well, the reason why my colleague Keith Reeves and I wanted to write this book was really to help our students in our teaching at a zoo-specific university. And both of us shared certain concerns that our students would bring to classes that were often far beyond the content of our course. So I would teach classes in theology, but I would have students that would deal with Scripture, but often needed to go more in depth to have a more critical understanding of the text. And so I didn't always know how to adequately train them in ways that would help them to be better interpreters of the Bible. And my colleague Keith would teach Bible courses, but he would often have students asking questions about the nature of the Bible's inspiration and authority and trustworthiness, which are all important questions, but were not necessarily the topics of that particular course. And so we thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a book that kind of brought together both of our concerns so that we could use this in a course in theology that would also help people, students in particular, to develop their own biblical interpretive skills. But then the book could also be used as a supplemental textbook in courses in biblical studies, where a professor could have students read chapters that dealt with issues of biblical inspiration, biblical authority, and the trustworthiness of the Bible. And that would allow them to understand more of their theological questions along with their own biblical studies.
How do I use this book in my class? It's a great resource. It was designed really as a supplemental text for my classes. The conception of the book was Don Thorsen's idea, where we each share our expertise. But as I'm teaching the Gospel of Luke, for example, or the book of Acts, sometimes students will have questions that will arise. We may be looking at Luke's version of the centurion, for example, and we'll compare that to Matthew's version of the centurion's son, and we see that they're slightly different. And sometimes that will cause students to raise questions of inspiration or authority. And the book is very helpful. I have my students read this text, and often they like Professor Thorsen's contribution better than what I've written, which is fine. Sometimes they like what I've done better, sometimes they like what he's done better. But as I've had them read this book, I have them write a response to it, and have been quite pleased by how it's challenged their thinking, it's how it's opened their eyes. They have a better understanding of their own views of the Bible. Often it makes some people more confident in what they believe. At other times it makes students challenge some of the traditional ways they've been thinking. And so I found it to be a very helpful resource as I've taught my classes.